Today, today I'm choosing to speak the anger that I've been holding within me out. This is going to be one of many transmissions, but it's time for the words to be said instead of suppressed. This mess that we find ourselves in is really funny in ways and ways not. I've watched how humanity has been driven by this need to focus outside themselves, to invest in stories, conspiracies of the worst kind, where they actively seek out ways to blame others, to give their power away, to shrink under everyone else's need for them to only express an acceptable way. We are first most soul, first most field, first most source. We've never been separate from any of that, but this world has told us different. And through that different, we learned to blame outside resources or outside sources, leaders, TV, media, movies, cultures, and religions, to take that power from us and tell us what we can and cannot do. And it's made this world miserable. Not for me, I understand. And I choose not to be part of it, be part of the circus. I choose to be part of Source and express from that place. But there's so many out there who are wasting the talents of their creativity and imagination for someone else's story. In the quantum field, there are a zillion different realities, all happening at once, all happening in this now moment. So yes, there is a reality where that conspiracy theory or story is real. But do you really want to experience that? Is that what you really want? It's only because you have allowed fear to cloud your illusion or your reality that you cannot see that there is another path where that reality doesn't actually exist. But because you've not taught and you've not remembered your own divine codance, you allow everyone else to tell you who to blame, that someone else is the reason why you suffer, that someone else is the reason why you don't have what you want, that someone else is taking your power away from you, your money, your success, your love, when in actuality, it's all you. Because without knowing it, in every moment, you're creating your reality and have been doing so since you were born. Every time you make a choice, whether in thought, words, actions, you're telling the field what you want to experience. You are literally writing the code of your reality in every moment. And you have a design within you to be able to write code that makes your life beautiful. You choose to focus on the code that makes your life miserable. Blaming somebody else outside yourself for your own shortcomings or lack. There's no one outside of you that has what you want. You already have it. It's only through this game of separation that the world has told you that you have to act through to be a good citizen, to be a good person. That you've lost your ability to be able to create the reality that you were meant to live. None of us were meant to live through struggle and sacrifice. And yes, there's a point to be made that you can learn through that. But when is enough is enough? When do you get to actually celebrate what you have already surpassed in struggle instead of just creating more struggle? Everything has purpose in this life. All emotions, all struggle, all problems, challenges, joys, happiness, expansion, creativity, all has purpose. But there's a point where even that becomes too much. If you're just struggling all the time, you never actually get to experience the fruit of your labor. You're just creating the next story, the next script line, and creating your reality to experience the same or worse. You are the authority in your life. No one else can override it unless you believe that they can. And yes, the field will give you that experience. The field does not say, oh, I don't really think you want that. It says, oh, you want that? Okay, here you go. And then we complain and we blame others for the fact that we don't have it. When in reality is because of the story that we're telling ourselves and the script that we're having. There are people out there who are living in the same reality as you, but are having a totally different life experience that is closer to what you would want. And the only reason why they're experiencing you're not is because of the stories that you are allowing yourself to believe in and giving your power to. And yes, power is like this dirty word, that, unsurpassed power can bring in corruption and all those things. But that's because that power is not in balance with love, the love of the universe. When you remember this true design inside of you and your ability to create reality on your terms, moving from your design, from your own code, you never want for anything. There's not lack. You are happy, you're joyful in the moment because that is all you can be. And in that, there's no one else to blame. Because you remember that the treasure chest that you've been looking for has always been with you. You've just been taught that you can't keep it for yourself, that you need to give it to somebody outside of yourself for you to beg, borrow, and plead to get it back from them. But it's always been yours. You don't need a permission slip. Source gave it to you part of your contract before you were born, part of this purpose, as a way for you to fulfill the purpose that you were uniquely assigned. But we've allowed the outside world to divide us, to separate us, to tell us what's right or wrong, what's being kept from us. And then we just create that reality. We're in charge of it. No one else is driving it, just us, the collective. And even that, yes, collectives exist, but if you're part of a collective that is creating a reality that you actually don't want, then what are you doing? I have to believe that many of the stories that I see out there, that people don't actually want to experience that. But the more you focus on that and say that it's happening, you're going to manifest that. You're going to manifest that experience into your reality. You can't fight it by focusing on it. You need to choose differently and say, no, I want to exist in reality where that's not happening. And those people are free, are not a threat, whatever it is, because we're all part of the same field source. We all have our own divine purpose and expression. There's no one out there that would have any wants if we understood who we really are, what we're supposed to be doing. And I love a good story. I love fantasy fiction. I read fantasy fiction all the time. I'm actually writing my first fantasy fiction novel. But it's one thing when it's in a book and when it's on media in some way and we're told that it's, true and that somebody's keeping it away from us and we buy into this story and then we create that as reality. They're not creating it. We're creating it for them, whoever's driving that story. And it causes separation. It causes anger. It causes us to suppress our divinity. Your divinity is not to create someone else's sideways BS story. Your divinity is to be fully expressed as the version of Source the Source created you to be. So the more you think that someone is trying to keep something away from you, that is what you're going to experience. Because you're asking for the Source and the field to literally give you that experience. You're choosing to experience that. Every time you read an article about it, every time you respond on a post about it, every time you watch a video about it, every time you put focus towards it, you're telling the field, quantum field, that that is the reality you want to experience. Based on the anger and the fear around it, I'm going to guess you don't want to actually experience that. There's a reality where that's not happening. But by you tapping into the idea around it, you're choosing to experience that reality. And some will say, oh, but people are suffering in these realities. I'm like, yeah, but in these other realities, those same people aren't suffering. So why are we focusing on the one where they're not? Because this one will collapse when we stop focusing on it and focus on what we actually want. We've hamstringed ourselves without even knowing it. And yes, it's been taught from a young age. School, TV is a big one, movies, news, and now the advent of social media. It has allowed us to connect to people through people's stories, but their stories don't have to be yours. It doesn't mean you don't have compassion for them or, I don't like the word sympathy. It's more compassion and letting them be there in their own story, but it does not mean that you have to partake in it or believe in it. Because I'm done creating a reality out of struggle and strife and suffering. That is not at all what Source, your higher self, ever wanted for you. That is the human condition. And we have been conditioned since the day we were born. I remember watching videos. I was the firstborn, so they have a lot of home videos of me when I was a kid. And I was different. I never crawled. I was a butt scooter. And if you don't know what that is, you can look it up on YouTube. I literally sat in my butt and I would use my legs to propel me forward. My mother would always say you had some of the strongest legs as a baby. So many of my aunts in these videos were trying to turn me over, trying to tell me that I'm supposed to crawl and not do this scooting. And that makes a mark. It says it's not safe to your nervous system and your body to be who you are, to act as your natural design. I was not supposed to crawl. I was supposed to scoot on my butt. That's how I'm designed. And they would talk about how we would turn you over and try to show you how to crawl, and you would just turn over and we would get frustrated with you. And I'm like, I'm sure as a baby, I was frustrated with you. Like, why can't you just let me do what I've been doing? It doesn't hurt anything. That's just one example of many where we're conditioned from a very young age to not feel safe with our design. As humans, we're taught not to be different or look different or act different or express differently because that makes other people uncomfortable. The reason why they wanted me to crawl was not because I was hurting myself. It was because somehow it made them uncomfortable with the idea that even as an infant, I was choosing to be different in my own way by butt scooting. They told me I was lazy, that I was too lazy to turn over. No, I figured out my own way. That's my own self-expression. But even as an infant, I wasn't allowed to do that type of expression. And it's ingrained in us. They didn't mean harm by doing that. They were probably had that done to them when they were a child, and their mother had that done to them as their child, and on and on through generations. And we're just repeating that from a young age. We're told that we cannot be who we are designed to be. And then we start to look at outside sources, our parents, TV. I was raised Roman Catholic. Magazines to tell us what was acceptable about who we are, which goes against our natural design. We have a design to have everything that we could ever want beyond imaginable. But because when we were young, we were taught that we couldn't be that it wasn't safe, we turned to the outside world. And now, because of that, as adults, we're still blaming the outside world for our conditions that we unknowingly created for ourselves because of what we had been judged for, condemned for, criticized for, made fun of for. And now we're in these boxes and we feel like this life is supposed to be bigger and better and we should be farther along, and we're angry and we're sad and we're powerless and fearful because you are not connecting to what you were originally designed for because it doesn't feel safe to. Now, I'm not a big proponent of just sitting in nervous system regulation because I think that there is purpose to that, but it can become a bit of a band-aid and it doesn't get to the deeper issues. Because the deeper issues is because you are an identity, actually multiple identities of people, of versions of yourself that people have told you that it was safe to be when you're around them, whether you're in school, at work, and you change based on who you're around and where you are. And none of those are your true identity, the one source assigned you, where the magic happens, where the manifestations happen instantly, faster and faster and faster. And you actually get what you want. And then you don't care about what happens in the outside world because you remember that you've always been the authority as to what happens to you and doesn't. And you stop giving your power away to stories that you actually don't want. We as souls have to remember that essence in ourselves and choose to be that version, rise above our humanity. There's nothing wrong with being human. This is part of the experience. Your soul comes into a human vessel, manifests its first thing as a human body, and creates life through it. That does not mean babies. That means projects, solutions to problems, creativity. And creativity is far more than art. That is only what it's been like pigeonholed to, but far more. We have to remember who we are as souls, connect to our hearts. The human is logic based, and logic will never get you out of it. In fact, the brain is always running like an analysis based on your past experiences and what people have said to you and the judgments, and saying whether or not you're going to be successful at that before you even tried. It will always keep you in a loop of limitation. Its answer is not there. The answer is for you to rise into remembering who you were and act through your design. The system out there that we've been taught to earn for money, to prove your worth, to exchange your time for money, have people tell you how much you're worth, how to get love, how to have a good relationship, how to have success, how to have happiness, joy, is a system that was never designed for any of us. It was designed for the human, the limited human experience. But you are a soul living in a human body. And when you rise above that and connect to that identity and start to move from that system doesn't matter, because you remember that you have your own operating system, that own way of expressing yourself. And when you use that and move through that, all the things that you actually want manifest, because they're part of your design. They cannot not be. So it's time to remember that piece. Stop trying to create things and envision things and vision boards and rituals, and then trying to get something outside of you in the system that was never designed for you to get that to manifest. You manifest it when you come home to your own creative expression and allow it to fully express through you in whatever way you were designed to. And not everyone is going to like what that is, and that does not matter. You are here for the ones that do. We give so much credence to worrying about the ones who don't like our work. Who cares? We're not here for them. We're here for the ones that do. And we only give our power away when we let somebody else tell us that our stuff isn't good based on their own perception, which has nothing to do with you. You don't have to be mean. You just say oil and water, which is what I do, oil and water, and I move on. Stop diminishing yourself. We're far greater than this. We're unlimited. The universe is working through you, wanting to expand. And because we're using our human mind and our human limitations, we're just spinning in cycles, triggering the same wounds over and over and over again. And for a long time, I thought the solution was to heal all that, the generational stuff. But that's the human lineage, if you will. We have to come back to our soul. We rise above that. There's a version of you who is an expressed soul in a human body, who lives in a reality that is balanced, joyful, peaceful, happiness, all the things that you desire, without it having happened outside of you. It has to happen inside. You have to become that. That's who your soul is. Your soul is not angry. Your soul is not powerless. It's not fearful. You create your reality. What do you fear? You only fear it because it's this separation, which I will talk a lot more about in other podcasts. Because that separation is what causes the anger and the fear and the powerlessness. But you've always had it. If you've dreamt it, it's already yours. Or you thought about it, or you planned it on a paper. It's already yours. It's only what we've been taught, of this idea that you have to go get it, that causes us to be in these low-level emotions a lot. Now, that doesn't mean as a soul you're not going to experience anger or fear or, as you move into that soul expression and still in a human body, you're still going to have feelings, but they're great compasses to see where you're going off track. Yesterday, as I have chosen to be that version that's fully soul expressed, I'm still working in some of the systems that I was before I chose that last week. And the anger that I feel in my body when I do things that are part of that system that I've been told I have to do to have a successful business, to appease my customers, is going against my design. And that anger is my compass point that says, wrong way, don't push, that's not the right way, go back. And it's like a giant stop sign for me. And those lower emotions can totally be that for you. But there's supposed to be moments of anger or fear or sadness or powerlessness. They're not supposed to go on for days, weeks, months, and years. That's not what you were designed for. So, yes, those emotions matter, but they're actually telling you something about yourself, not about anything outside of you. The outside is just a reflection of the feelings and beliefs that you have and stories that you tell yourself within. Change those stories, the outside changes. Maybe not instantly, but it does. So it's time to rise above that human condition. That's not who you are. You have a design specifically for your human based on your soul's expression and partner with source. And that creative flow is trying to move through you, but you're not allowing it to express in the way it wants to. They're saying part of that is not just because you're looking for proof outside yourself or waiting for permission. It's also because the anger and the sadness and the fear and the powerlessness are not letting you trust it, and you're actually blocking it. But if we want to ascend over this world, to remember a world where balance and harmony is actually normal, we have to choose to come back to our soul essence and identify as that, as our unique design, and remember how each of us moves and expresses that way, and be okay with others expressing it their way because that's their unique design and how source made them for whatever purpose. Doesn't matter. What you should be focused on is what your soul design is, understanding how that free flow expression wants to flow through you, and move with it. That's it. We've made it so hard when it's really, really simple. And that is where I'm playing now. I am that soul fully expressed, doing these audio transmissions of a mix of myself and a mix of this group of higher selves and Egyptian energy and source. And the more I do them, this will merge. There won't even be a difference between that group and me. I still may identify them as separate only for ease of understanding who's talking. But I know they're not separate from me. They are me. So what do you need in order to tap into that full expression of yourself? Where are you tapped into stories outside yourself that have no bearing on what you can and cannot create? What do you need in order to step back and remember that and to rise and allow that creative expression to flow through you? Think about it. Come back. We'll see you on the next episode. Bye for now.